We will start this second part of this lecture on arthropods going through the important orders of insects. These are generally differentiated by their types of wings that they have. The first is called Orthoptera, And if you see the word ortho, think straight or proper, but straight is probably the best way to look at it. And the group called Orthoptera or straight-winged insects is characterized by the praying mantis and the katydid. It also includes crickets and grasshoppers as well as the locusts. These are plant eaters. The second is Ordonata, which is the toothed insects. And the toothed insects include dragonflies and damselflies. You see the pictures over on the right. They generally eat other potentially damaging insects. So they are actually very good for the environment. The third group is Hymenoptera, or haft wings. Hemi, half. This includes the bed bug, which is something you never want to have in your house, the cinch bug, the squash bug, and the stink bug. The stink bug is called the stink bug because if you step on it or injure it, it will put out a fairly obnoxious odor that drives away predators. The introduction of the word bug is in this group, and it represents haft-winged insects that have piercing or sucking mouth parts. And that's what an entomologist means when he talks about a bug. Homoptera, or same, homo meaning same, so same winged insects. This includes the cicada, the plant louse, the scale insect, mealybug, leafhopper, and lax insect. And you can see some examples, the leafhopper on the left and the cicada on the right of those two pictures. They can be very damaging, both in the wild and also domestically to the various agricultural endeavors. The material called shellac, which is used to cover various like wood products, actually comes from lac insects that are ground up and put together to make shellac. Leptoptera, or scale-winged insects, these are the butterflies and moths. This is actually a moth. You can generally tell moths because they have larger bodies. And moths also have hair on their bodies, whereas the butterfly has a smaller, more elegant looking body and has no hair. Moths also have and this you can actually see here, the sort of feathery antenna associated with their heads. And they hold their wings horizontally at rest, which is what you can see here. And moths are nocturnal. So these various characteristics help you tell the difference between moths and butterflies. The heavier bodies, they have hair with feathery antennae, horizontally winged placement at rest, and generally nocturnal. Diptera, or two-winged insects, are the flies, gnats, and mosquitoes. This is the mosquito on the right. They are very important for the spreading of disease. Coleoptera, or sheath-winged insects, are the beetle, firefly, and the ladybug. And Hymenoptera, which you've probably heard of before, the membrane-winged insects. These are the bees and ants, as well as the wasp. Insect colonies are actually quite interesting, particularly the bee colonies, because of the way they're organized. Honeybees organize their colonies in a significantly organized and distinct way. The queen, there's usually a single queen in the colony, and the queen is the egg-laying female, and the colony is always centered around the queen. Drones are large males that mate with the female, and actually they cannot take care of themselves. They actually must be fed, and they are generally fed by the workers. The workers are sterile males and non-egg-bearing females that maintain the colony and produce the food. Ants have different colonies set up, but are in many ways the same. They also have colonies that are set up. Now, with that review of the types of insects, we're going to move to a completely different group, the arachnids. And the arachnids should never be called insects because they're not insects. They're totally distinct. They're a distinct group that look like insects. They're arthropods, but they are not insects. And the arachnids include spiders and scorpions, as well as dandy longlegs, mites, and ticks. The the spider is considered, from most perspectives, in a positive light. Spiders differ from insects in several ways, and a very common quiz question is, how are spiders different than insects? Well, there are 2 body regions instead of 3, the cephalothorax and the abdomen. They have no antennae, they have no compound eye, only simple eyes, and they have 4 pairs of legs instead of 3, so they have 8 legs total instead of 6. Externally, the spider is made up of a very thin waist called the pedicle, which is between the cephalothorax and the abdomen. Chelicera, which is a short appendage near the mouth, which is used to grab prey and bring it into the mouth. The pedipalp, which is a small appendage that looks like a leg that is used to seize food and cut it up. And then the scopula, which is a wad of hair on the last segment of the leg, which helps them cling to the walls. Internally, the spider's nervous system, they have nervous system, digestive system, and their digestive system is characterized by what's called a sucking stomach. A sucking stomach draws liquefied food into the gastrointestinal tract. So, like a lot of other insects, for example flies, the food is first injected with digestive material and is liquefied and then drunken by the insect or the spider. The intestine is where the nutrients are absorbed. The circulatory system, the blood flows through open passages in the body, and as opposed to a closed system of blood vessels. And so the spider has a totally open circulatory system. The respiratory system, they have what is known as book lungs, and then small openings where the air enters called spiracles. There's also, not related to the respiratory system, something called spinnerets, which is where the web is actually produced. In reproduction, the female has a similar area to the insects called a seminal receptacle, where it receives the sperm from the male, and then little spiders are actually called spiderlings. And here's a diagram of the spider, and yes, you will need to know most of the things on this diagram, if not all of them. I can give you something like this and ask you to fill in the blanks. And so we'll go through it briefly. First of all, here are the simple eyes. Inside is where the brain is, and the brain is right back here. And in front of the brain is the venom gland, which goes down to where the fang, where the venom is injected. The mouth is behind this fang. This is the pedipalp, which I was talking about before. It grabs and prey and potentially cuts it up. And then this part right here is where this grabs prey also and brings it into the mouth. Once it enters the mouth, it goes through the esophagus and ends up in the sucking stomach right here. Then it goes back here into the intestine. This is externally called the pedicle. This is that thin waist between the cephalothorax and the abdomen. and then this goes back into the intestine where food is absorbed, and then eventually this is expelled. Here is the ovary in the female where eggs are, and they go down the oviduct. The seminal receptacle is right here, and so sperm is introduced here and then fertilizes the egg, and then the eggs are laid. The spinnerets are back here, and then you have the silk-making glands here. The air opening is in this area, goes to the trachea, and then to the book lungs, which are right here. Moving back up this way, heart is in this area right here, and this is where the open blood, pumps blood through the insect in both directions. Other arachnids include the daddy long-legged spider. It's also called a harvestman. It has no waist. It uses 2 pairs of its legs as sensory organs. No fangs or spinnerets, which is why when you mess with a daddy longlegs, you don't get bit. Scorpions, which are both viviparous as well as ovoviviparous. Scorpions are actually quite dangerous. And then mites and ticks. And this is an example of a tick. The importance of a tick is the fact that it carries many significant diseases, including Rocky Mountain spotted fever and Lyme disease. There are arthropods with multiple legs, including centipedes, which has 1 leg pair per segment. They are flat and also venomous, so they can cause significant stings. And then millipedes, which are saprophytes. A saprophyte is a term, if you've forgotten it, that means that they eat dead material. They have a rounded body, not a flat body, and they are not venomous. They have 2 legs per segment.